What's happening, guys? Another Sunday. It means I gotta make another video, even though I just started cutting weight today for my fight on Saturday. And like I said, Sunday school takes no breaks, but obviously I have the topic on my mind of cutting weight, which is why on the TV behind the camera is a guy eating enough Raising Cane's for 3 families. But be that as it may, I still got to make a video, right? There's no weeks off here. So based on the topic at hand, what I'm going through today, I want to talk about weight cuts. And in particular, I want to go on a little bit of a rant about the use of IVs in mixed martial arts to rehydrate and my thoughts on them. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really research this one that well because I'm tired and hungry and bloated and all the other things. So this may not be the best video, but I still want to get this point out there because I think it's an interesting point to make. It's certain, depending on the media, you see some controversy about people maybe using IVs. Obviously, according to WADA standards, IVs to rehydrate are illegal. People do it anyways. Some people say it's a bad thing, whatever. But I want to give you my thoughts on them, so let's run it. So first off, IVs are obviously used as a rehydration tool primarily in hospitals for situations like alcohol overuse or drug overuse or malnutrition, any number of other situations, and they're certainly effective. I mean, the basis of an IV pack is essentially a saline solution, so mostly sterile water with a certain percentage, it's a low percentage of sodium chloride. And depending on the IV mix, there are other minerals. They can put potassium. I've seen some put glucose or sucrose or dextrose. And I think that those are valuable tools, but there's a couple problems that I have with it. Number one is that, yes, these things can handle, acute dehydration, say in situations of sudden illness or stomach upset or, maybe a bit of heat stroke or whatever. But I think for mixed martial artists, it's actually kind of useless, to be honest with you, because none of it's specifically made to rehydrate somebody for 15-ish% of their body weight, give or take. I mean, granted, my cuts are a little bit more extreme. In fact, today I woke up 22 pounds out and I'm stoked. That's going to be about 11 or 12%, something like that. Maybe 13, I don't know, I didn't do the math, whatever. But I know 22 pounds for me is easily doable. But regardless, it's still a lot of water. I mean, that's almost 2.5 gallons of water that I'll be pulling out of my system. Actually, it's more than 2.5 gallons. So, yeah, 2.5 gallons would be 20 pounds. So it's more than 2.5 gallons of water that I'm pulling out of my system. And so to use an IV to replenish minerals is not something that I think is sufficient in and of itself. Now, obviously, when you are cutting weight, you are eliminating all external salt for the most part, so no sodium gets in. Some potassium will come in through your diet, but it's certainly not anywhere near your recommended daily allotment. And due to the vasopressin hormone regulating sodium to potassium ratios, if your sodium level is low but your potassium comes in high, your body will just simply excrete that to maintain a proper balance between those two. And so even if you are taking in some amount of potassium in your diet during weight cut week, like if you're eating a lot of leafy greens or avocados or whatever, typically your body expels most of that, especially with the water loading as well. So yeah, replacing the salt is nice, but the only difference between taking in salt through, say, drinking it post weigh-ins versus an IV is simply the efficiency to which it's delivered. I mean, you're bypassing your digestive system by having saline get in your body intravenously. And yes, that can be nice, but unless the weight cut is incredibly extreme, more than likely you're not going to have a digestive system shut down, at least not permanently. I mean, in my situation, I certainly rehydrate slowly so that I can give my digestive system a chance to sort of wake up. I mean, as opposed to backing itself up. I mean, I definitely take my time with it, and I think you should too. But I don't think in a weight cut situation that your digestive system would slow down completely. Now, the other end of it too is sodium is not the only thing that you're depleting. Obviously, you're depleting potassium, you're depleting magnesium and calcium, you're depleting your other electrolytes. But you're also depleting your glycogen as well. I mean, every gram of carbohydrate your muscles store holds 3 grams of water, and most of what you're doing is getting rid of that as well. So an IV will really not help you replenish any glycogen whatsoever. Now, if there is a bit of, glucose or dextrose or whatever, you'll get a small insulin spike out of it. But the problem is there aren't any carbohydrates following that up. And so it's an insulin spike that makes insulin go high, but there's no carbohydrates to store, especially to the degree to which you'll need to after cutting more than 20 pounds of water out of your system. Guys, dude is eating French fries on TV, and it looks so good. I have it on mute, but I swear to God, I can hear him crunch. You know? So anyways, as far as like my rehydration process goes, like I've never needed an IV, and I've cut north of 25 pounds. My last fight, I cut 28 pounds. So it's very doable, but you have to be deliberate about what you're doing to rehydrate. Using an IV as a backup case simply isn't going to get it done, especially if you want to perform it the next day. Now, in an emergency situation, if something, kidneys go into failure or whatever, yes, of course, there are situations in which you want to obviously take advantage of medical supervision and all that. I'm not saying don't do that. But in general, it's really important to understand what you are depleting and then how to replenish it properly. So let me give you a quick rundown of how I'm going to do it later. So first off, rather than using an IV for saline solution, I'm simply going to create a few drinks post weigh-in. I'm going to create them. I'm not going to buy them. I'm going to create them, basically dumping a whole bunch of minerals in there. I'm going to use Redmond's Real Salt because it's obviously high in sodium chloride amongst other minerals, granted in like single percentage form, so nothing significant in there as far as other minerals, but sodium chloride is big time. But it's a really clean salt. It has been protected from microplastics because it's from a deep salt mine in Utah, long before humans started using plastics for everything. So I like that salt a lot. I'm going to use a lot of potassium citrate because it's an easy form to get in. It's very bioavailable. The citrate molecules will actually help me because I will not have eaten in probably about 2 days at that point when I make weight. And so your body accumulates uric acid as a defense mechanism when you fast. It's a great antioxidant, but obviously it's something you want to eliminate. And potassium citrate, the citrate molecules will bind to the uric acid and help me excrete it. So that's how I'll replace potassium. And then magnesium glycinate is fantastic because not only is it incredibly bioavailable and it's in a powder form, I can add a lot of it to a drink. But the glycine actually is one of the biggest components of collagen, and it's something that's difficult to get while cutting weight, and it's good to replenish the strength in your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments as you're about to go into a fight the next day. So I'm a huge fan of doing that. Now, as far as how much I'm going to put in, to be honest with you, I don't measure it, but it's a lot. And the reason why is because, again, your body will suck up what it needs to and eliminate the rest. Obviously, your kidneys are filters for this exact reason. Magnesium is an interesting one too. I mean, obviously muscle cramps come into play, and I think it's a very valuable thing to overload of magnesium because, again, your body will excrete what it doesn't need. The difficult one, believe it or not, is calcium. Calcium is not something I would ever take in a supplement form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring, probably I'll bring 2 blocks of Pecorino Romano cheese, because I'm going to be overprepared and probably only eat one. Maybe I'll want some for the post-fight. But obviously it's delicious. But the interesting thing about calcium, at least this has been my anecdotal experience, is that your body tells you when it has enough because you stop craving the foods that have calcium in it. So I'll eat some cheese as I go, and then when I don't want to eat cheese anymore, my body typically is taking enough calcium. Now I need to keep calcium and magnesium in balance, and obviously that's going to aid in that. But that only explains the mineral part. Now, what about the glycogen part? So that part, about an hour and a half after weigh-ins. I've made a video about this before. A lot of you kind of know my routine, but just to make it easy, about an hour and a half after weighing in is when I start the refeeding process. And this is when I take advantage of a junk food chemical called maltodextrin. It's a polysaccharide that's synthetic, that has the highest glycemic index. It's the highest glycemic index food that exists. It's actually synthetically created to be such. So it will spike my insulin super high. And what I'll do is I'll eat some, I'm going to bring probably 2 bags of flavored sweet potato chips with me up to Montana. Now I'm going to use sweet potatoes because I'm anal now and potatoes have lectins. Sweet potatoes are much healthier. I do well with sweet potatoes on my diet, and so I'm going to have 2 bags of sweet potato chips up there that will be flavored, probably a barbecue flavor because that's what sounds good. But that'll contain maltodextrin. It'll spike my insulin super high, but it'll have a bunch of carbohydrates coming behind it, clean carbohydrates in the form of sweet potato. So as I'm refeeding, as I'm eating, obviously I have my post-fight meal of Thai food and red curry and everything. And believe it or not, I have a rice cooker and a food processor shipped up to Montana that'll be waiting for me. So this is how anal I am. But that's how I'm going to replenish my carbohydrates to begin with. In addition, I'm going to have red curry and obviously plenty of steamed rice so that I get my fill. And approximately 6 hours after weighing in, I'll be more than on weight and feeling 100% again and ready to go into battle the next day long before we even go to bed. So none of that is going to be using an IV. None of that's going to be using any method in terms of dehydrating or weighing in or post rehydration that would be illegal under USADA. And I don't think for anybody that IVs are completely necessary. I just think you have to understand what exactly it is you are depleting and how you want to go about replenishing it. So yeah, I mean, that's how I do it. That's how I've always done it, and I've always felt good physically in fights. Mentally is another story, but physically I've always felt good, and I've always recovered fast, and I've been ready to go. So with that being said, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut this video kind of short this week. I don't really feel particularly amazing. I don't feel bad, but I just want to chill because I have a big weekend coming up. But I'll catch you guys on the other side. I'm excited for this weekend, and yeah, everyone that supported me through this, I appreciate it. My boys that are coming up to Montana with me, I'm excited to put on a show for you. And yeah, so it's been a heck of a year. Let's have a fun weekend and keep the momentum going.